Hello, I am Dr. Lorianne Petito, and I am pleased to be here today. As Provost Erting mentioned, Gallaudet now is truly the epicenter of a revolution, and she is correct in that statement. The world definitely now views ASL as a language. The world also recognizes that deaf people do have culture. But unfortunately, there is still a problem, a revolution that is yet to happen. Biologically speaking, there's a block in the brain. Many people still believe that spoken English or spoken language is superior to signed languages and that sign languages are therefore inferior. People also believe that biologically speaking that sign isn't good and speech is preferred and that you need to expose deaf children to speech, and if you expose them to sign, it will hurt their chances of learning English. And it will also hurt them as human beings and destroy their brains and ruin their chances of ever learning spoken English. And many people do believe this. Many researchers around the world really assume that the biological brain is wrong and that speech is equal. And there are power changes and power dynamics in that, and that we know better now how to teach language to deaf children and deaf adults. There's a benefit in young deaf children. Oh, these poor hearing children, they lose that ability in their brain to develop the same things that the deaf children have when they are exposed to sign, and this power is gone. And it's how we teach these hearing children to become better learners, as well as their deaf counterparts. It's good to work together, and a few of us neuro researchers have started to change our thinking about how being human is in the world and how we can, if we can change this in language, we can change it in law, we can change it in our human day-to-day life. Thus far, there's signing and speech, and children will pick up language acquisition over time. But what about the brain? We thought this tissue in our brain for several years. We thought that when we heard things that are auditory tissue, that we called auditory tissue, meant that sign was not involved in that part of the brain. But we were wrong in that, and we found later that sign and spoken English are processed in the same exact area of the brain, in the same tissue. And for years and years, people thought we were special for just listening and having that happen, that processing, but scientists were wrong. And that tissue is not only for sound, but it is for receptive skills and for planning in our human language. You know, it doesn't matter if it's on our hands, on our tongue, our brain can process both of these things. Deaf children, who are exposed to sign language have these receptive skills and their eyes can monitor and track, and that causes them opportunities to learn all the time. They get to experience language and learn better and become better students, really. They can control themselves and manage their own thoughts and brains. And other findings, we find that hearing children have that. You know, they have the skill to also do the same things, but they lost it. It means something as simple as this could help the human body and help hearing children. We can share how each other learn to help us process and use our brain in a different way. And this can make sure that we are available, or we make signing it available to children early on in their lives. There are many, many languages, and benefits to language. And there's a myth that you see here on the slide. Cochlear implants aren't needed, and they'll get language and everything's fine, but that's wrong. That's a myth. And early exposure to sign will harm a child's English abilities. That's wrong. And men should be signing beautiful ASL, or it will hurt their children, and that's wrong. Or parents, excuse me, not men. And that you should learn first one language and then decide to learn a second. And again, all of these are myths. So we have a lab, and we had an opportunity here at Gallaudet to use that lab. And it's the best in the world, and we were able to use sound or images, MRI images of the brain. And we had a child who's 12 months old, and you can see their brain scan here on this chart. And it's incredible that language and the area in which language is processed in the brain is a little bit larger there. But a monolingual brain, which is on the other side of this chart here, of a 12-month-old, you can see that there's a vast difference. You can see that the bilingual child has these amazing skills, and by 12 months, you can already see a massive benefit to having 2 languages being exposed to a child. Children can gain receptive skills of ASL and the phonology of ASL, and they can use that in their everyday lives and map it with letters, and just like the way hearing children can hear sounds and then map it onto a word or a letter on a page. Also, there's evidence that found that if there's no practice in young children or no training in this, ASL philosophies, that it will make a better student. Imagine that. Imagine sign language would not hurt a child. And look at the emphasis it would make. If you were to tell a child that they could learn both and give an aid to a child who could learn both languages at the same time, it would give them massive benefits in their life. This is just a little food for thought here. We have the opportunity to give our children food. Why? Why would we do that? So we don't hurt their bodies. But do we give our children the opportunity to have language? This is just food for their brain. Do we do this? I can't. Science, how the brain and the human body works and is flexible, we can figure out how to develop an optimal learning culture for our young children. And really, with biology, there's a challenge. And there are years of doctors and nurses and healthcare providers who could make new policies and changes that could integrate human biology with this language theory. Thank you.